The CPU and GPU in any gaming PC build are arguably the two most important parts of the entire system. It's a pairing that defines just how well your gaming PC will perform for years to come, making it crucially important that you get these two components right first time around. And in today's video, I'm hopefully going to make that a little bit easier by covering off the very best CPU and GPU pairings you can buy right now, helping you guys to create a balanced build that delivers strong gaming performance for years to come. Let's do this. Before diving into my favourite CPU and GPU combos, I want to quickly look at why these two parts are so important. The graphics card deals with all of the graphical bits within the build and is responsible for taking your gain into an image that's on your screen. The GPU will render out a set number of frames per second depending on just how powerful it is and how high you've cranked up the settings, giving us that all-important FPS figure. The CPU handles all of the maths and calculation side of getting that game to work. And while games are predominantly reliant on a good GPU, having a good CPU to match up with it is really important. Have a really powerful GPU and a cheap CPU and you'll create what we call a bottleneck, whereby you've got one really fast component being slowed down by one that's significantly slower. Same goes for having a really high-end CPU and a bit of a rubbish GPU. Now, in terms of CPUs and GPUs, there are two main brand choices for each component. CPUs, you've got AMD or Intel. They're pretty evenly tied at the moment, though AMD seem to be providing marginally better value, while GPUs, you've got Nvidia and AMD. AMD also seem to be providing better value at the moment with GPUs, and Nvidia, as we'll come to discuss, haven't had a great time of it in the last few months. Intel have thrown in a wild card with their Arc lineup of GPUs, which are worth considering in limited use cases, and you should keep an eye on as they are going to get a lot better, I think, over the next few years. I mean, heck, Arc has already come on such a long way since it first launched. The CPU and GPU combo should make up around about 60% of your build budget. The bigger your build, the more of the budget you can probably afford to absorb. On those really low-end builds, you've still got to buy a case and a cooler and a PSU, and those costs don't go away. But aim for between 50 and 70% of the budget on your CPU and GPU combo. So what are we waiting for? Stop messing about! Let's dive into it and look at the very best options, starting at cheapest, going all the way through to the most expensive. Now, in terms of the cheapest, most budget combo I could possibly envisage, I'm not going to go for an i5. Oh no. Instead, I'm going to go for this, the plucky little Core i3. 4 cores, 8 threads, and a mega value price point of just $80 makes it an awesome bet. What's more, this 12th gen CPU supports both DDR4 and DDR5 memory, so if you are on a really tight budget and you've got some existing RAM to use up, then the i3 is the one to go for. I would recommend pairing this up with an AMD RX 6600. This is basically the cheapest GPU anyone should buy. Unfortunately, AMD's 64 and 6500 lineups fail to provide good value, while Nvidia's RTX 3050 is priced well beyond the realms of what any GPU of its performance should be priced at, meaning the 6600 is basically the only bet. A word of warning, this combo will be great for getting off the ground with 1080p gaming, but don't expect loads of future-proofing for AAA titles in years to come. 1440p gaming's not really going to be possible, but for the vast majority of esports titles, this combo will be perfectly good. The CPU, though, is certainly the weak point when you're only spending $300 on the CPU and GPU combo. But what if you've got more money to spend and want to instead opt to throw $400 on a CPU and GPU combo? Well, that's where this comes in. What I might just title the best value CPU we have seen in years. And this is the AMD Ryzen 5 5600X. Yes, it comes in AMD's last generation Ryzen 5000 lineup, but it's mega cheap right now. It's available in either an X or a non-X derivative. The X version has higher out-of-the-box clock speeds and more leverage for overclocking, so is recommended for gaming if you can. Often for gaming, it's not about how many cores the CPU has, it's about the clock speed and the speed that individual cores can run. The non-X version of this CPU is available for around $145, though all prices are subject to change and latest info is linked below, with the X version coming in at $168. That's an incredibly powerful 6-core 12-thread CPU that boosts well over 4.5 GHz with overclocking headroom and cheap motherboard availability. Check out these B550 motherboard deals on Newegg for $150, give or take. In terms of what GPU to pair up with this CPU, I would personally recommend the AMD RX 6650 XT. That's going to help us stay just under that $400 CPU and GPU combo budget and deliver really fantastic 1080p gaming performance. The 6650 XT even has some legs at 1440p, but it is disadvantaged at this high res by VRAM. You could also consider for this combo combo, the RTX 3060, with its 12GB of video memory, but unfortunately the 3060 is not really powerful enough for 1440p gaming anyway, as far as the rasterization goes, so the extra VRAM, while useful for some people and some particular games, isn't going to do it a whole heap of favours here. Even still, it's incredibly impressive that a $400 combo can even do some 1440p gaming and game at 1080p high in the rest of the field. Move through to the $500 bracket and you start to open up a world of relative opportunity really when it comes to CPU and GPU options. Intel's i5 lineup is really strong on the 13th gen, but 14th gen is coming, so hold off on the 13th gen lineup for now, and AMD are just being so competitive on price, they win in this price bracket again. Their new Ryzen 5 7600 and 7600X are incredibly cheap right now. I saw a 7600X new on one of the biggest retail sites in the world for under $200. Now, prices and offers do come and go, and things will have changed by the time this video is out, but it shows you can get a Ryzen 5 7000 series chip for a shade over $200 USD. And if you're in America, the rest of the world is unfortunately left out. You can also pick up the new Ryzen 5 5600X 3D. It's exclusive to Micro Center, but it's very, very good. So if you can buy it, definitely worth considering at this higher price point. In terms of what GPU you want to pair up with this CPU, I actually struggled here to keep it in budget and recommend a sizable upgrade over the last gen combo. AMD's new Radeon RX 7600 has fantastic straight rasterization performance, better than the 4060 Ti, better than the 4060, and it's cheaper than both of those cards. The 4060 Ti is like $100 more. It's a great deal, but it's only got 8 gigs of VRAM, which really is limiting. 1440p now, it's okay, but as new titles continue to come out and develop, it's not really the sensible option. Instead, the better option is the RX 6700 and 6750 XT, but I will confess, it does push over the budget by about $20 or $30. Sorry. The 6750 XT is clearly the better bet when it comes to this combination. That's going to deliver great 1440p performance in all the latest titles, 12 gigs of video memory. It's a real great card. And for a $500-ish budget, the 6700 or 6750 XT and a Ryzen 5 7600 are going to make you golden. Plus, new 13th gen and Ryzen 7000 motherboards, DDR5 memory have come down in price so much that they actually are really viable bets for budgets like this. But what if you've got more money? James, I want to move up the food chain. I want a better CPU. I want a better GPU. What should you buy? Well, I have to say AMD hold the top spot with the CPU. The Ryzen 5 7600X is fine for a budget like this and delivers strong single and multi-threaded performance for gaming. Of course, if you're also interested in video editing, maybe swap this out for a Ryzen 7 or i7 tier CPU. That's then best paired up with something like an RX 6800 non-XT GPU, a monster at 1440p with limited legs at 4K, whether it's the likes of Hogwarts Legacy, the new Star Wars title, F1 2023, the 6800 holds its own very well, and the Ryzen 5 7600X also a solid CPU at this price point. Top tip, if you are looking to use any of the combos today for anything more than gaming, video editing, rendering, CAD design, just jump the CPU up. If you're using a Ryzen chip, go from a Ryzen 5 to a 7, or a 7 to a 9. Same with Intel, from an i3 up to the i5, or the i5 through to the i7. It's a great way of spending an extra $100 and really future-proofing yourself for those productivity-oriented scenarios. But of course, some people have got more money to spend. Lucky you if you have. And $1,000 on a CPU and GPU combo, while may sound a lot for many, is still only a portion of a build budget that might cost $1,500 or $1,600 total. And if you have got this kind of cash to splash, something like an AMD Ryzen 7 7700X paired with either a 6950 XT or, for the first time in this video, an NVIDIA graphics card, hallelujah, the 4070 is a great bet. Now, the 4070 and 6950 XT are weird cards to put in the same bracket. The 4070 is the best NVIDIA card that you can get in this range, and with 12GB of video memory, it isn't hampered by the same problems as its 4060 Ti and 4060 little brothers. It's also cheaper than the 4070 Ti and 4080, which cost sizably more. It does give you access to DLSS 3 and ray tracing. Would I buy this over the 6950 XT? Honestly, no. But if you want NVIDIA and everything that comes with NVIDIA, the 4070 is the best card to buy for a $1,000 CPU and GPU combo. As far as the GPU on the AMD side goes, the 6950 XT is a monster. It's got 4 gigs more video memory, slightly faster straight rasterization performance, worse ray tracing, so that is where NVIDIA win, but the 6950 XT is a storming deal right now. The only massive asterisk to have with the 6950 XT is it is technically, I believe, wave being discontinued, and we're starting to see these cards filter in and out of stock quite a lot. If you aren't aware of the whole situation right now in the PC market, there's a lot of cards at retailers that people can't sell, and the aggressive price drops on the 6950 XT were designed to counter that, designed to sell the cards, and guess what? It's worked, because everyone's going out and buying 6950 XTs right now, and I mean, I'm not surprised when you can buy that or a 4070. There is, of course, one more price bracket to go though. One if you want not quite the best of the best, because we all know the best of the best is a 4090 and a Ryzen 7950 X3D, but the best of the best for 4K gaming that isn't gonna cause you to have to sell your house, remortgage your family, and sell your car. Anyway, for $1,500, here's what you can buy. Ryzen 7 7800 X3D. This is a marvel of engineering. AMD, you have graced us with your beautiful stacked 3D cache, and my goodness, golly me, it is fantastic. I've lost the plot. With 8 cores, 16 threads, and a boost clock speed of over 5 gigahertz, it's mental. The 3D stack cache also gives you way more cache than you'll find on similar CPUs, specifically the non-X3D versions, making it awesome for gaming. Cache is like your DRAM, but way quicker and closer to the CPU because it's built in, meaning the CPU is able to store all of the instructions it needs nice and close. As far as GPU goes, the 4090, as I say, is out of budget. The 4080 is also out of budget. This isn't though, the 7900 XTX. You can find these very commonly for sub $1,000. In fact, my notes say $949 at the time of writing for this power cooler model. Obviously, it massively depends on the model and the cooler you buy, and I'll link these below. We're also seeing these start to sell out in certain cheaper cooler variants. ASRock, for example, have been making some really great value 7900 XTXs, so have XFX. So worth keeping an eye on those brands if you want to grab yourself a bargain. I'll leave all of the combos mentioned today down in the description below. If you'd like a video just about GPUs, check that out in the cards. It's absolutely flying on the views front, so thank you very much for supporting that one. And as always, I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye. Don't sell your house to buy a 4090. It's not good financial advice. See? I'm useful sometimes.